Angel arms, soften up a little bit. Let it float. Practice in front of the mirror. A good thing that a mirror does is it'll let you to see what's happening.
Investigating Grace was really inspired by trauma in my own life. My son, who was in his early 20s, had a brain tumor. And I went through a whole process of whether or not I should continue choreographing. It made life feel very meaningless. And it came clear to me after a short amount of time that that was exactly what I needed to do, was keep creating.
That was much better.
So I decided to make this piece about love and loss, and it was inspired really by the different parts of his young life.
So I get to see that body and the spirit lifting out of the body on the floor.
Investigating Grace is really investigating human grace. How do we cope with the extreme, well, pleasures as well as traumas in our life?
Those are the parts that I feel are like the most emotional for me, and like the parts with a lot of detail, just because like as we've been doing them more and more, we've been trying to create more and more interactions where the audience can like get an example of like our relationship.
As we relearn the piece and then teach it to the SF State students, we start to learn what all these fine details are and what certain sections mean beyond the movement, like what other connections through real life can you make to those physical movements. So I think that's the hardest thing, to try to translate all those things, because the piece is so detailed and so long and full of those ideas.
I mean, the whole idea of when I made this was, what was I doing? Where are my glasses? This is my life? Oh no, no.
I looked around for a piece of music that I thought would work with this idea of different parts of a person. And I came across the Goldberg Variations, which of course is a very famous piece. And I kept coming back to it because the idea of an aria with all of those variations seemed to me emblematic of a life. You have a person, and then they go into different places and they have different experiences. The format of the aria, with all the variations, was the suggestion to me of how to form the piece. So the aria in my idea was my son, and then we did variations. So I made up a phrase that you see at the beginning of the piece. It's a 2-minute little dance, and the rest of the variations, 38 variations, are really all spring from that one bit of material.
I've been trying to tell Katie and Josh that the most important thing is to relax, to feel one another, and don't force anything. And that's it. And just know and trust that you can do it. We go through this journey where it's very caring and sweet, and then it becomes troubled, and even angry at some points. And during the whole journey, it's still about finding the grace to get through this problem as a group. And how does my character work this out, still believing in the grace of life?
That's good right there.
The audience should let a feeling take a hold of them. And I know as a dancer, it's really difficult for me to watch a dance piece because I'm looking at technique and are the legs strong and all of this, but you really should be looking for a feeling.
The process of working with the students in this particular group has been probably the best I could have hoped for. There's as much passion in this process as in the dance.